Sometimes life goes so fast you just need to step back and take a time out. If you're really lucky, you can spend that time picking the brain of Blue Jackets head coach John Tortorella. We could only find one guy brave enough to do it. Here's Bob McElligott and Timeout with Torts.
Torts, I'll start you off with an easy one today. It's Veterans Day, also Remembrance Day, as we're here in Canada, so it's Remembrance Day here. Of course, we know about your son being in the military, but I wanted to ask you what it was like, what your feelings were the day that your son Nick came to you and your wife and said, I'm going to get into the military. I'm sure you remember that day. What was it like for you?
Yeah, it kind of came out of nowhere. I wanted him to get an education. He had finished high school, so I said, but you're going to go to school first. And it caught us off guard. We were very proud of his thinking. He wanted to try to make a difference, and he felt that was the path for him. And at that time of life, for kids of that age, you need to let them live their life. And I did force him to go to school. I asked for a 4-year degree. He came with a 2-year degree and came back at me. And I said, get on your way. So we were very proud of him. And again, when I hate just talking about my son, we are very proud of all the men and women that kind of stand on that wall and give us this opportunity to do the things we do.
In the case of your family, it was hockey indirectly that got him interested in that, wasn't it? With your travels with the Stanley Cup and taking it to the military families?
Yeah, we when we won the Cup in 2004, we had it for 2 years because there was a lockout after that. And so we did a lot of extensive traveling with that to the military. Special Ops was being run right out there in Tampa on MacDill Air Force Base. We got to go to places that were just it was just an unbelievable education to me and my family. Mike Sullivan, who's now the coach of Pitt, was my assistant, and for a number of years he's a really good friend of mine. He traveled with us. We just had a great opportunity to meet some of the great people that do these amazing things for us.
And we always talk about life when we sit and have these talks, too. And it's funny how life works. There's a lockout, so you have the Cup for 2 years. You spend more time around the military. Your son spends more time around there. I mean, heck, who knows? Maybe if there was another season, maybe if you were never in hockey, maybe that doesn't even come to fruition.
Yeah, things happen for a reason. And, again, just in this day, I've had so many correspondence with some people that have been in my son's life, and just us meeting some of the military in our travels. It's one of the greatest things, Bobby, of my job is the doors that open your way because of just the title, not because of the person, because of the title of running a sports team, to get to meet some of the great people. And I have some just fantastic relationships, and just touch base with a few of them here today. So, yeah, very respectful and honored to have those friendships.
Now, your son went into the military voluntarily, but on a day like Veterans Day, I think back at all the people that went in because they didn't have a choice. They got drafted, or go back to the greatest generation, World War II, that there aren't very many of those people that are left right now. They're 95 plus. My grandfather served in World War II. He didn't talk about it very much. As he got later in life, he told me some stories that I was in total shock because I'd never heard them before, about getting sick on the boat coming back from Europe, not knowing if he was going to survive. And I'm sitting here thinking, I wouldn't even be here today if he wouldn't have made that trip all the way back.
Yeah, it's just amazing. You read some of the history books as far as what went on. And as I've said to you many times when this subject comes up, it's just a different person. And no matter if they were drafted in and they really weren't too interested, they did the work. And it's just a different person that goes through that. And in my mind, I just can't even get there as far as how they do that. And that's what just blows me away, and where I have so much respect for them is just what they had to do mentally to do all the things they did to give us our freedoms.
And we get a chance to see them every night because just about every building has a veteran on the ice before the national anthems. And, whether it was Korea, whether it was World War II, whether it was Vietnam, whether it was Iraq, we get to see them every day.
Yeah, it's one of the coolest things I think we do as an organization. I look for them on the road, and some teams do, some teams don't. But we have had some unbelievable, some of the older men and to see them still living, and you just, I look at up on the screen there, and I just look at them, and I just can't imagine some of the experiences they've gone through. I think it's one of the coolest things we do as an organization. There's always someone front and center for us to show our respects before playing a hockey game that he or she gave us the right to do.
You ever get a chance to meet any of those people, even by accident, maybe milling around downstairs?
I haven't. During games and after games, it's just so jammed up for me. But that is one of the neatest times for me. Is before the anthem and they introduce them, and then during the game when they reintroduce them. I just have so much respect.
Now, we're sitting here in a beautiful hotel lobby in Montreal here in this early November as the season goes on. I walk around the city and I look and I think, here I am, a small-town Western Pennsylvania guy. Never thought that I was going to be in Montreal for any reason whatsoever, and I get the opportunity to come here for this job. Do you ever, as you go around still, and you've done this for a long time, but do you ever still have those pinch-yourself moments?
Oh, yeah. I mean, listen, we live in a bubble. As far as professional athletes, no matter what sport it is, the amount of traveling we do and the amount of catering to us that goes on and the hotels we stay at, I mean, my gosh, we are spoiled rotten. I sometimes travel, my wife and I travel with all our animals, and when we're going from one place to another, we bring our animals no matter where. So we have a van, and we have it kind of souped up a little bit, but we pull into these hotels, and I said, I'm not going in that hotel, and I do. I end up pinching myself that, we are spoiled rotten, and we're very fortunate to live the life we lead here, and it's a nice city here, that's for sure.
I know. I'm laughing because when I go to a travel baseball tournament or a travel hockey tournament, we're checking into it's a pretty nice hotel, but look, the Hampton Inn is not the Ritz.
Well, I'm not even at the Hampton Inn. Who are you kidding? I mean, that movie Chevy Chase Going on Vacation when all the crap starts falling out, and that's how it's one of the most humiliating experiences you can go through, and we do it all the time, traveling with 4 big dogs and a conversion van, and you roll in there, they want to get out, and shit's flying out of the doors, and it is, you should see some of the places we pull into.
I got to ask you, it wasn't always that way for you because you started in the low minors and worked your way up. So I know what those hotels in the minors are like too.
Gosh, yes, yeah. Oh gosh.
I mean, we were playing in Dayton one time when I was in Johnstown. We were in Dayton. And Jody Shelley can back this story up for you. We were staying in this. It wasn't a very nice place, and the radio guys got a room with the trainer in the minors and all that stuff. There was an ice storm, and we were supposed to move somewhere else. And Scott Allen, who you know very well, he was the coach. And he said to our bus driver, Frank, can we make it out of here? Can we get out of here today? Oh, yeah, Scotty, we can get out of here. And we literally got out on the interstate, and that bus got stopped. It was a slight upgrade, and we couldn't even move. And we had to walk back to that hotel that day. The players were talking about getting their skates out from underneath the bus. That's how much ice was on the highway to get back. But, yeah, it was those small little dank hotels that we were in at that time, and those memories are kind of better now.
Yeah. Well, how about I remember on the buses we used to travel on. I remember waking up in the middle of the night when I was playing for the Virginia Lancers out in Roanoke, Virginia, and the bus driver. We had this old dilapidated bus. We're in the middle of a snowstorm, and I wake up in the middle of the night, and he has his credit card because the defrost wasn't working on the bus. He has his credit card scraping the inside of the window, trying to look out a little hole, and we're traveling down a highway. I mean, some of the stuff you had to go through in the minors, I think it's a great foundation to grow there as far as where you come to if you get an opportunity to coach at this level. Oh, some of the things that went on there was just crazy.
Wait a minute. Why are you such a nervous flyer now? Because that sounds like a more nerve-wracking story.
I would be on. It doesn't matter. If I don't have to get on a plane, I am not getting on a plane.
Well, next year you got to get on a plane and go to Finland. Let me ask you about that because that announcement came out this week. You work for Jarmo Kekalainen. You work with him, I should say. He's a general manager. He's the first European general manager ever in the history of the NHL, and he's going to get a chance to take his team, which has several Finnish players on it, back to Helsinki and play. How proud are you that he's going to get that chance?
Yeah, as I've worked a number of years with Jarmo now, and I have a tremendous appreciation for him as far as how he goes about his business. He's a hard-nosed Finn. I think he does his business the right way. He's very proud of his country. I'm happy for him. Now, he's going to blow it off because that's just the way he is. He doesn't want to make it about him, and I appreciate that also. But I'm proud of him for being the first one, and now he is able to bring a National Hockey League team over that he manages back home. I think that's terrific for him, and he won't make a big deal about it, but I'm so happy for him and proud of him.
When you first came here, John Davidson is a guy that you had more of a solid relationship with from your time with the New York Rangers. So coming in, you weren't as familiar with Jarmo, but now here you are 4 years into it. How has your relationship changed and developed over that time?
Yeah, it's developed. That's the best word, because at first he didn't know me, and I certainly didn't know him. And, we had some, we still do, we had some go-rounds as far as how we go about this, this certain situation, and how I'm doing certain things with the media and stuff like that, and how I like my camps. It's been a give and take, but I think I'll speak for myself. I think we've gotten closer, and I really like working with him. He lets me do my work. I think he has tremendous insight. That's what I lean on him. I have a coaching staff that I lean on. But there's no other general manager I've worked for that I've leaned on more as far as hockey thoughts and lineups and just how we go about certain things than him, because I think he's a very bright man. I think he's very honest, and it's not a general manager looking over you and thinking differently as a general manager than the coach. I think we've come really quite a bit of distance as far as doing things together here, and I rely on him as far as some of the things I think we need to do.
And I was going to ask you, because he's employing players based on certain skills, and you're giving them the ice time based on how they're utilizing those skills, and sometimes those, sometimes it can get tough, I would imagine.
Yeah, we've had many arguments. We'll argue until we're, as long as we're working together, there's going to be arguments. But that's what the really neat thing about working with him. He's got some skin, and where we can argue and we can go at it hard. But I think we both believe that you move on. You try to come up with a solution, and we've got to be united front as we get to that solution. And I think we work through things. We've had doozies as far as disagreements, but we work through it. And I think he's really good in sometimes just stepping away from me because I'm not coherent because I'm so mad about something. And so it's been really good for me. I've learned from him, and I hope he's learned from me. I think that's how we both approach one another, is we bounce things off one another, and we try to get the best decision made for the hockey team. And that's all it is about with him. It's about the hockey team, and that's what I respect.
Talking with head coach John Tortorella, one of those situations, or was this one of those situations, to dealing with Elvis Merzlikins, who you sent down to Cleveland to get some work in while the team came on this road trip. How much back and forth was there between? You come out with the united front, but I'm sure there was discussion before that.
Yeah, but we did not have too many minutes of talking about this because we both thought it was a really good idea. And, so we moved right on it. So this one was an easy one. There are other ones that we go back and forth, and but it's great discussion. It's great experience as far as just trying to run an organization. And managers do think differently at certain times in situations that a coach does. Managers have to speak differently about situations than what coaches do. And that's the kind of things we talk about. Like, I know there's certain times he'd like me to do it this way, and I'll explain to him. I said, you know what? I'm the coach. I'm not the manager. I have to handle it this way. And so we get into conversations like that, and it's been really good for a crusty veteran like I am, that's coached many years in this league, in listening to a guy that has gone right up through it all as far as hockey, now as a general manager of a team, and learning. And I'd hope he say that he's picked some things up for me. But I just like his all business, and he's got some jam to him, and it's team first. It's always team first, and what is ever best for the team. And sometimes in this business, it gets a little convoluted there because people jump into the little foxholes and they're protecting themselves and their job, and you don't make the right decisions that way. If it's about the team, you make that decision, and he is truly to that.
Elvis was called back up. Was that the plan? Was he going to? So he's coming here. You had him going back to Columbus.
It's because of Corpy's actions after the goals, and I told Corpy, I'm not sure what game it was when he
Philly,
yeah, where multiple times, and I said, don't do it again. And especially for a goaltender, he cannot do that. Did it again the other night, so he's out and Elvis is in. And having said this, I don't think he's that type of guy that has that. He has a lousy attitude. He's a competitor. But for a goaltender, you just can't do it. And I'm living right next to him in another room as far as trying to handle emotions too. So I understand some of the things he goes through because I've made huge mistakes with too much emotion at certain times. So I understand what he goes through, but he can't do it. And this is part of the process for him to learn, as far as a number one goalie, that you have to handle yourself the proper way in front of your team. That's what it is. The goalie is in front of his team, and players can't see that. And goalies can't be looking at players when the goal is scored against them, basically trying to say, you made the mistake in front of me. It's going to stop. And so he suffers now. And so it certainly wasn't planned to do it this way, but after I watched it after the game, we're going to bring Elvis up, who played very well in Cleveland, and he's going to get to start in Montreal.
And in this type of a situation too, I mean, it's almost like dealing with a child. You told him you can't do it again, did it again. Now you've got to take away from him. But this is also, you were talking about team first. Yes. This is not team first because you were warned. Now you put yourself in a position where you're the number one guy and you're not going to get to start. And as a coach, there's a tool there too as well, right? Because you want the players to say to him, hey, like you could talk to your blue in the face. Until they talk to him, sometimes that holds more weight.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure if the players saw what I saw on the video. I didn't see this during the game. I was on the plane yesterday. When
I saw some of it, and I knew you'd see it.
Yeah, well, once I broke the tape down, this was a half hour up before we landed yesterday. And listen, I want to make sure he's a great kid. I love the guy. I love the process he's going through and how he has played for us. But this is part of it. All players go through this with me. I can't say it to him and not follow through. When I did, I remember I benched Nick Foligno last year. I benched Cam Atkinson for stupid stuff. This goes right through the team. You lose all of team concept and all of teaching the process of we're in this together if you let things like this slide. And so immediately when we got off that plane, I told him, I said, you're out. And we got on the phone driving to the hotel yesterday. Elvis, you're coming up, you're playing. And so I think it, in a roundabout way, in the big picture, I think it's going to help. I really do. And but I'm not mad at him. I'm mad at how he's handled himself because I think he's a tremendous competitor and a great kid.
Yeah, and he played his tail off in that game, and all of a sudden he ruins it by one action.
Yeah. Well, it happened to goal 3 too. He had some actions going on goal 3, and that's his fire. I love his fire. But as a goaltender, you have to control yourself. And now he has to understand that as a number one guy, even more so. He is the brain of the team. He steadies the team on everything he does. And so this is a very important situation for him to learn from. And we had a couple of great conversations about it. And I love this stuff because it's about the mind. It's about being a pro. And I wish it didn't happen, but it does. And so we're trying to be the best by it and try to be the best after it.
I know there are a lot of guys that are struggling on your team right now. The confidence is down and all that stuff. But is Josh Anderson visible enough for you right now?
No. And like me, the media asked me today, I am not going to single out Josh. There are a number of guys. Josh just ends up being front and center because he bangs. And you just haven't seen much of that. But there are a number of guys that are struggling. And so we can't pin it on one guy. That's why we're trying to stay together here. We're as I said, Bobby, we're going to be patient as a coaching staff, try to help them. We got to stay together here and just keep on trying to find our way. It's hard because I think we showed we had a really good team. The first 10 games, I thought we were dead on, but we've lost ourselves. And that certainly doesn't belong on the shoulders of one guy, but Josh is certainly one of those guys.
Yeah, and Seth Jones is a guy that just doesn't look like himself during games at all. Do you agree?
Yeah, you can go right down, Z, him. It's just one of those things that's going through our team that we just need to stay with it. And not showing a lot of negative video. We're trying to get him out of it with some positive video. I got video ready to go tomorrow morning. Some good things we did in Colorado. There's going to be some corrections on the video, but it's not about being overbearing. and saying, yelling at them, "Where are you?" We got to try to help them. And as I said the other day, these are really really good athletes, top of the world. How they're living, but it's amazing what happens. All people, no matter what's going on in their life, no matter how positive their life is, you can lose confidence. And as players, it goes quickly. So we're going to try to help them get out of it.
How much has that part of it changed because the league is so young? Because you used to have maybe the older guys that would do a lot of that work for you. Maybe you have to do more as a coach now. I think back, one guy that jumps out in more recent history is when Pittsburgh acquired Bill Guerin before they won that cup back in, 2009. He seemed like he was the kind of guy that came in and just could police a lot of things. And, of course, he's a great leader, and now he's a GM with Minnesota. So, but those guys they're kind of falling off the face of the earth here. You don't have them anymore.
No, you don't. You don't. And quite honestly, we're in the room quite a bit right now in a positive way. I think, with Nick and I think Jens and – it's tough. It's tough to be a leader like Nick. He's our captain. He's probably struggling worse than anybody. No one talks about Nick, but there's a struggle. He's got one goal in how many games? And Cam's the same way. Cam has a letter on his shirt. It's hard to lead when you're not doing the stuff on the ice. So that's why we're kind of grouping together and just trying to do it together. But to find that crusty leader doesn't happen that much in our game anymore.
Which is unfortunate. And we could talk for hours about what used to be in the game and is not in the game anymore, but it's life. It's not just a game of hockey.
Yeah, this is a total different game in the National Hockey League. Total different game. People say, yeah, we've just made a few rule changes, and it is a totally different game. I'm telling you right now.
All right, let's talk about a positive here. Emil Bemstrom has goals in the last 2 games. They've both been power play goals. One of the things that Jarmo talked about all summer was this guy's an offensive guy. He's a power play guy. You had him on the power play, took him off the power play, have him on there. Hey, look, the first goal he got in the NHL, not the prettiest goal, but it was a goal that counted, and he finally got off to Schneid.
Yeah, his second one wasn't that great either. But that's the way it works. The puck's beginning to follow him, and yeah. So I'm his 5-on-5 play still has a lot to learn. Still a work in progress there. We hope the power play will help his 5-on-5 play. We hope a couple of goals will loosen up, and it has. You can see he's made a couple of plays, but he's a guy that we're going to continue to work with. And as I said, I'm not sure if I talked to you about it. It's hard for these young guys that are here, and they've been touted a little bit as an offensive guy, and a team's not scoring goals, and we're in a little bit of a losing streak. It puts even more pressure on the younger guys because they're just trying to figure out the locker room, where they belong in the locker room. And then when the team is losing and the top guys aren't playing well, a little more pressure goes to them, where it really shouldn't. The only way we're getting out of this is if our top guys get going and drag some of the other guys along. So it's a pretty unique position for a couple of our young guys.
All right, last thing I'll ask you here, even though the team's struggling and you're looking for answers, as you've made a gazillion line combinations here in the last 5 or 6 games, are you close to finding something that you think works, or is it important to you to allow there to be cohesion between lines and try to get some guys that you can put together and keep together for a while?
Well, I have found one line that I've kept together through it all. That's Luke, Gus, and Bjorky. And so those guys have played together right on through here. I'm not sure what the ruling's going to be today as far as Nick, but I'm sure he's going to get suspended. It just depends how many games. I got to figure out, it's got to change the lineup there too, with Nick being out now. So I like to say yes, but I can't because I think Winnie has struggled. Jens has played well at certain times, and I'm trying to get some balance within the lines, but it's hard to do when so many people are struggling. And it's easy for people outside to say, just stick with your lines. Yeah, it's easy to say, but we have to look at other things as far as where players are going to play in the most important times of the game. Those are the decisions I have to make, and that comes into how you form your lines. So I've got one line. I've got one set of D. We're settled in on our 3 sets of D right now. With Murr being out, I think we're happy with the 6D. Nudi's still hurt, so it's the other 3 lines that I'm still up in the air about.
So you're a quarter of the way there?
Yeah, and that's part of it. It's hard to really try to paste together some lines when really most of them are struggling. This isn't one or two guys struggling. This is a number of guys struggling, and so we want it. Like, we've tried to bring some cohesion to our power play. So we've tried so many different things, and then we're going to try to stay with a group. But now Nick's out, and we have to change things around a little bit, and so a lot of this stuff comes into play.
Well, thank you for taking time in this posh hotel lobby with me. Enjoy spoiling yourself before you go back home and get to work. Oh, I forgot. A fan asked me if you gotten done that stall for that horse you were adopting.
That will be done Wednesday. Yes, that will be finished by Wednesday afternoon. Yeah.
See, now I'm going through this in my mind trying to figure out, is he going to have somebody else finish this? But no, you're doing it because Wednesday's the day off.
Yeah, I'm helping. No, yeah, I'm just helping. Yeah, so yeah, we have our neighbor's horse that he's going to leave for the winter, and we're trying to get that horse with ours, and we'll get it done. It'll be done by Wednesday afternoon.
So people were asking, and I'm glad I remembered to ask that. So, thank you, Torts. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
That's head coach John Tortorella. This has been Timeout with Torts. I'm Bob McElligott.